Hi, folks. My name is Girish, Bali, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today, we're going to talk to you about life. We're going to talk about the fullest life ever. So let me repeat that. Live the life to the fullest. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think this is the person that I want to go and talk to. After what she's gone through, what she's going through, and what she's going to be later in time, and I know her secret, and that's going to stay with me. So that's not going to be in public. But there's a lot of things that I know about her because we talk almost every other day. An amazing character, amazing person. And by the way, she's also in the government. And I will salute her all day long, but the stuff that she does every day. So guys, let's go and meet Ebony. But we call her ES, and we call her ES every morning. So I'm going to go and ask her and take her permission. So which one should I name her today on the show? So let's invite Ebony to the show. Ebony, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Hey, everybody. You with ES, since you're more comfortable with ES, but ES is just my initials, Ebony Cherie, and then Griner. So you get Ebony every morning. Oh, man. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Ebony, thank you. Thank you so much, ES. I'm going to go and say ES because I've known you for a long time. So we're more like a friend level versus two people talking to each other. But before we talk about all the crazy stuff that we're going to talk about, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
Oh, man. So I see it as an opportunity to network, to get to know new people, just getting down to the nitty gritty. The way I saw, like when I first, you like, hey, I got back to the basics. I was like, ooh, he's going to be diving deep. Like he's getting back to our core, our inner self. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. So that's what it means to me.
Yeah. So thank you, ES, for coming here. I'm so honored that you are on my show. As a friend level. So thank you again for that. Ebony, or should I say ES? I'll keep on saying these two words all day long. So
it's fine with me.
Just bear with me on that, okay? The stuff that you have gone through in your life, can you just explain to me what made you get into the government side of things and what you do in the military? And please explain that if you don't mind.
Okay. So pretty much, I'm an electronics technician in the Navy, U.S. Navy. I'm active duty. I'm E6. I fix radio communications devices. Since I was about 4 years old, I knew I had a knack for fixing things. My father, first thing I've ever touched was he had a Pinto, and he would go work on it. And I remember asking him, "Hey, Dad, how does it work?" And he said, come be my shop foreman, i.e. you're going to learn to pass these tools and you'll find a gremlin. So every morning we would go out. I don't know why this car needed so much freaking work. It's just a little lawnmower engine. And we would go out and mess with the car. If it was either tire rotations or in the engine or him showing me a new part and it stuck. Later in life, my mom and dad separated. My dad moved out. And he told me he was going fishing, something else I love to do. And he never came back. And for like 6 years, I was like, man, this is a long fishing trip. And my sister was like, you don't get it. He's not coming back. And I was like, no, that doesn't seem right to me. So at that age, I was probably 11 years old. I was like, Mom, I'm going to learn how to do everything a guy can do. So we don't have to ask a guy to do anything. Because I didn't know if Daddy was coming back or not. I hoped. From time to time, he would call, he would pop in, pop out. And we would reset every time. It was never any bad karma with us. Ninth grade center, they said, what do you want to do with your life? Soon as I saw automotive, I'm going to be a mechanic. And everybody was like, you're too little. No, I'm going to be a mechanic. So I took automotive 9th through 12th grade. I was honors, the top of my class. I went to VICA. I rebuilt alternators, brake calipers. I've installed engines, transmissions, you name it. But I also grew up as my mom's little boy. So anything, painting the house, wiring stuff in the house, you name it. There's nothing that I won't try to do. I call myself a Janet of all trades. I went on to college. My dad came down for my graduation. We had reestablished connection. And my dad was like, what are you going to be? I was like, I'm going to be a mechanic, thanks to you. And he was like, oh, wow. So he bought me my first toolbox, which I still have, Craftsman. Who y'all serious, even though you're not around anymore. But my dad was in the Army. Before I was born, he was Army. He spent a tour during Vietnam era in Germany. So he did that. My uncles, they were also Army. My great grandmother, even though it has the article running, has a Women's Auxiliary Air Force. She was actually Women's Auxiliary Force, found out of Texas. So she was a component of the Army as well. So it's just like a long line in history of mechanic and military components. Navy was not my first choice. I was going to go to the Army with a buddy system, and then my buddy got pregnant, and I was like, well, I'm going to college. I got a scholarship, so I'm going to go to college. A year later, she joined, and she went off, and I was like, well, I'm in college now. So it's no sense, breaking that. But military was always in the back of my mind, like always. So I went to the Air Force a couple of times. I ended up doubling back and got biomedical equipment degree from automotive, hospital equipment, cars. It's the same, it doesn't matter. Yes. But I kept feeling in my heart that I needed to go to the military. I went to the Air Force. Last minute, I chose Navy because I actually did not do the reading section on the test because I did not want a desk job. I knew my heart was to fix equipment. So at 25 years old, I got my paperwork. I leaned back to the Navy dude and I was like, hey, would y'all take my scores? Is it good enough to get into the Navy? I'm cool with them deployments. I feel like I have something to give. I know what I want in life. Everything I've ever went after, I have it now. It's my time to give myself to my country, to the military. So I quit almost like $100,000 a year job, and I went and joined Uncle Sam's Navy.
Yeah. So yes, let me ask you this, because there was a whole bunch of stuff in there. So let me step back a little, if you don't mind. So I want to go and ask you this question. Was your passion cars, mechanic? Or was your passion hold on. Or was your passion going into the military? Or both? I mean, which is more important to you? Let's put it this way.
It was more the military because I knew I could work on cars. So when I sat down, because I pray about everything before I do it. And when I had the conversation with God, I said, God, what is it that I'm supposed to do now? Because I know I can fix cars and I know I can fix the house. I know I need to go into the military. I like fixing people, or helping people, I should say. I used to call it fixing when I was codependent. So what's next? And I knew it was military. Passion was military. But when he asked me if I wanted to fix cars or medical equipment, I told him no. I needed a different type of electronic job because I had mastered those. I needed new electronics. So it was definitely military.
Yeah. So do you think that the passion for military is because of your dad being in the military? Or do you think that you wanted to help people when it comes to the country or something like that? So I just want to understand the psychoanalysis of that, if you don't mind.
I think it was not necessarily help people of the country. I think for me, it felt like I needed to help people in the military with my skill of being something outside of the box, being as they call us, a twidget, a electronics person, female. On top of that, what you see, African American, but I call myself American African. I'm Austrian and I'm also Native American. So I feel like all of those things as gifts that God built me to, I needed to go inside of the military and do His work.
Yeah, Ebony, thank you again for that. We talked about the passion between the two, right? But now let me ask you this one question, which I think is going to be a little tough for you. Do you think that female getting into this type of role, is it tough to get in, or is it tough to get in because you are a different background? Does that make sense?
It does. I think it's easy to get in, tough to maintain. I'm coming up on 14 years. A lot of women, military called females, that's in my field, they don't make it past the 2-year or the 4-year installation that they're in, because you're going to be in a male dominant society. You may be the only person that looks like you. A lot of guys was like, we looked you up on Facebook, we couldn't find you. And for a long time, I hid myself from social media. I use aliases all the time. That thing he showed me how to do before the military, said, hide your identity. So, and they were just like, I just can't do that. It's too hard. And I was like, maybe my dad teaching me, automotive, working in an automotive shop, being the only female in the automotive class, help build me up to be able to have the resilience and perseverance to make it.
Yeah. Thank you, ES, for explaining that. Because you know what, I salute to you, honestly, because you know the stuff that you have gone through and the stuff that you struggled, and getting into these type of fields might be tough. I really don't know if it is tough or not, and you have to tell me if it is tough. But maintaining it is another level that some people, they just don't last that long. So I want to salute you for that, if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
salute to you
Thank
that. So
you.
so yes, before we get into the other side of the things, I just wanted to. I think you mentioned this earlier today when we were on the phone call. I wanted to say knock knock to you.
Okay, y'all was gonna tell y'all this. I don't know. It tickles my funny bone every time. So hold on, I'm trying to hold myself together. Who's there? I can never I can never freaking hold it. Like
Okay. So the reason why I asked this question, everyone, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands is that almost every morning, whenever me and ES talk every morning, uh, I say a really corny joke called a knock knock joke. And the knock knock joke is that I say knock knock and she says who's there, and guess what happens after that? Nobody answers. And we sit there for like minutes, and she cracks up every single time.
and I'm still doing it.
So so this is the greatest thing, and this is the first time that we're actually meeting each other on video. And you know, this is what ES is all about, not the quirkiness, but it's just she loves the way she loves laughing, she loves giggling, and she will love all you guys all at the same time. So ES, thank you again for that quirkiness of of the show. So thank you again for that. So before we get into the other things, now, were you excited to get on to Back to Basics? Are you still excited on being on the show?
I am because I was like, little old me, when I say crazy ES, multiple personality ES, really me, I just tell my story, I just let it flow. I don't see anything special. I feel like I'm just another person going through life. And when you asked me, I was like, oh, wow. I
No,
was like,
there's a reason
big
why I
thing.
asked you. This is why I asked this question, and then you said that there's nothing special about it. So now, here's a one thing that which I've learned something about you. There was um, let's talk about the hard times, if you don't mind. So I think you went through a little tough time with your dad, and what you have gone through. That, can you explain that story, if you don't mind, because it's a very touching story, and I want people to understand the reason why I cracked a joke first, to see the happy side, and now look at her on the emotional side of things, which we have never seen and heard. Well, I mean, I've heard it, but you guys have not. So let's, Ebony, go ahead, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So you mean like I told you guys in the beginning, my dad was in and out of my life. Every time it was a 1, 2, 3 reset. We never harvest on the bad. My dad is the reason why I live life to the fullest. He is that guy. But unfortunately, my dad's not with us anymore. January the 10th, my dad chose to take his life. 3 days before my birthday. So it was really weird because a week prior to that, I had just spent Christmas through New Year's with my dad every day. One thing, it was weird because I felt like something was wrong, but I couldn't put a pinpoint on it because I also had that same feeling earlier in the year when he came and visited me for 2 weeks for his birthday. And I was like, dear God, please don't tell me that my daddy's dying. And I'm like, oh no, get that thought out of your head, but he wasn't moving differently, because I say, like, this is a guy that I was still, trying to get to know. We always 1, 2, 3 reset. But my dad preached the gospel. I ended up finding out as I've been going through his files, he was a PTSD and a suicide prevention counselor. I didn't know that. I'm a sexual assault prevention counselor. I do suicide prevention as well. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't know that. Like, you never would know. My dad, I am my dad. Like, we had the same quirkiness, and like we would just look at each other and sometimes just bust out laughing, or I'd be like, do the old man special. He had like this little dance that he would do in 2-step. And then he would see me work on cars, and he's like, you became a better mechanic than me. And I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, I can't let you outdo me. Everything that I am, Daddy, I am because of you. I wanted to make you happy. I was a straight A student. When I got my first B, I cried. It was because of you. So when I got that phone call, like I said, a week after I had just hung out with him, we was getting ready to start his business because they were giving veterans free LLCs. I got the phone call that your dad just killed himself. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, so let me tell you about da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the lady said it again. And so I fell to my knees, and it felt like someone had ripped my heart out of my chest, because I was like, no, this guy had so much to live for. He did so much for so many people. And then I was like, did Daddy tell me? Did I get to spend that much time with my dad because he was trying to show me something? Because even though he was fighting whatever I feel like demons he was fighting, he didn't show me. He was still living life to the fullest. We went fishing, we hung out, we went hiking, you name it. It was beautiful. Oh, it was beautiful.
But yes, let me ask you this, right? In the beginning, you were saying that your dad was not around and he's not in that picture any longer in the family. Do you think that you lost time on that aspect? Do you think? Or do you think you made it up towards the end?
At first, I thought I had lost a lot of times. I'm 40 years old now. So for 34 years, I had been longing to hang out with my dad every day. And for 7 days, I got that. Every day, I got to hang out with this guy, and I got to see another part of my daddy. I got to see my dad in his element, because he moved back from Florida back to Georgia, which a lot of people thought was strange, but his lease was up. So, I know the background stuff. So the fact that he went back to Georgia and I was able to see his basics, back to his basics, his roots, where he grew up, where he went to school at. Some of his, his majority of all his friends are gone. All his brothers and sisters are gone. He was the baby. He was the last one. But I was able to see my dad show me a side of him that I never met. And it was cool. Like, I mean, when I said I couldn't stop smiling, I think we were smiling at each other of how proud. And it was still a 1, 2, 3 reset. Like, we didn't bring up, man, why you didn't raise me? Or I saw you, you've been married 4 times and these other kids are calling you daddy, but I'm your only child. Why you didn't raise me? It wasn't that. I feel like he was infectious and he did the best he can do with what he knew how to do. So even though he wasn't in my life, he was able to touch other people's lives. And it made me proud. It made me proud. Like I say, even though most people are like, oh, you should be mad at your daddy. No, he made me who I am. I love him for that. I always love him for that.
But after the time that you told me that you lost time and then you kind of caught up, but I still I don't think that was enough, was it? I mean, you still were learning a lot of things from him, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. I'm mostly learning a lot through his estate. I wish he was here on this side of the world to tell me his story. But my dad left a lot of journals where, even though I physically, tangibly can't touch him, I'm able to live part of his life and see Ronald Greiner for Ronald Greiner and not this surface person that he was showing the world.
Yeah. Iyas, thank you again for explaining that. And thank you again for explaining the tough times you had gone through, but then there was a happy ending toward the end of it. And the quirkiness that we talked about, the happiness that you talked about, and then the sadness that you have. Now, there's one more story which also got me too, is that you talked about your weight too. And usually, if you think about it, guys, I usually don't ask ladies their weight, but there was a reason why I ask her almost every morning that how is your weight today? You want to go and explain as to why that is? Yes.
Yeah. So going into the military, I had no health conditions whatsoever. And then I had my son, and immediately after I'm 125, as you can see now, but I went up to 180 when I had my son. And then immediately after I had him, I was 100 pounds in 6 weeks. And then I was 80 pounds. I had no idea what was going on. Like, I'm nursing him. I'm doing everything. I'm eating. What's wrong with me? It took 3 years, but I finally got diagnosed by Air Force doctor. And he said, you may have a thyroid condition. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, this ain't the Adam's apple. And I'm like, I'm a girl. I'm a female. And he's like, no, 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 no. Look past that. Your eyes are bulging out of your head. Your throat is swollen. You say you look like Skeletor. Your hair is falling out. There's a reason for that. They ran tests and they found out, they were hoping I didn't have cancer. They found out that I had Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroidism. My thyroid was going a million miles an hour. I could lose weight 10, 20 pounds in a day. And that's pretty much what was going on from me. So they radiated my thyroid. I spent a week and a half in a cancer ward. I had a little boy. I couldn't touch him at all. I have a gray streak in my head. You can't see it now, but I have a gray streak like Storm. And at the time, my 2, almost 3-year-old didn't know why he couldn't touch mommy, because I was surrounded by so much metal. And he couldn't touch me, so I had to relay it in his terms. Mommy's like Magneto, so I need the metal, but I'm like Rogue, so I can't touch you. And so he went back to daycare. He's like, my mommy's a superhero. So it worked. And then shortly after, I had to take a thyroid, a replacement hormone. But even though they tell me I'm living with hypothyroidism, now Hashimoto's, also now I have pelvic floor dysfunction. So that means my joints started getting real weak and everything started falling on top of each other. I cannot maintain weight. I am up to a 4,000 a day calorie diet. Mostly, a lot of people will look at the list as high protein, high calorie and be like, oh, that's junk food. It is a lot of junk food in it, because anyway I can grab the calories. But for the most part, I struggle to get the 128, 125. If I come off of those calories, I'll be 80 pounds soaking wet. So I'm thankful that like you and all the people that were in the room, you and Chandra and like, I wasn't judged. They were like, most people like, oh, I know what's wrong with you. And I'm like, I'm a different type of person. Like most people struggle to lose weight. I struggle to gain and maintain. And there's no one workout plan, no one eating regimen. It took 12 years to figure out how to have my new normal.
Yes, thank you so much for explaining that. And I want people to understand that, it's not easy to lose or gain weight, and in your case, gaining weight. And but thank you again for what you have gone through. And I want to make sure that people, whoever is going through this, listen to her, try to understand that, eating extra does not mean that you're obese. It is something different about this situation, that it just situational. So thank you again, ES, for explaining that. After all the seriousness that we talked about, all the quirkiness that we talked about, and then we also talked about the knockback joke. So thank you again for ES for coming here. But before you leave today, and down in the audience, we have Life also. So we'll talk to her shortly. But let me ask you this question before we, talk to her. What is your last comments to all my Back to Basic viewers and listeners? And how is your journey on your Back to Basics so far?
Journey's been awesome. Like I say, thanks again for the opportunity. But what I would like to tell you guys, I'm gonna say life is wonderful. And my dad would always say, life is wonderful, live it to the fullest. And what I mean by that, I have been blind because of my thyroid for a day. I have lost my hearing because of my thyroid. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk. But you know how we always lay in the bed, it's like, God, if you let me do this again, I promise. You have to keep that promise. Every morning I wake up and it's a 1, 2, 3 reset, just like me and my dad. It's beautiful. If I harbor on the bad, my body hurts from my hair follicles to my toenails. It is not worth having tension because I eat. That's where my pelvic floor dysfunction comes from. Too much tension, too much stress, too much this, too much that. Live, live, live. Get back to the basics. Dig deep inside and live.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you again for coming here and making this brighter for me and supporting me on my small podcast. And thank you again for being a friend and a great person to chat with you almost every morning. And just stay blessed, whatever your new journey that you're going to be getting into also. And we won't talk about that today, but
okay, because I'm ready to spill the beans, but okay, honey.
Okay. So, the time that, this will be released, she will be already married and she'll be having a lot of joy in her new life that she's getting into, a new journey, a new platform that she's going to get into. So yes, I'm just gonna go and congratulate you now, and
Thank
and for the best ever. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you too. Like, thank you. I'm happy to be a part of your journey. This is beautiful. So thank you
Thank,
too. As
thank you,
well. Keep
thank you.
pushing.
Keep
Live.
pushing. Oh, well, before we go, knock knock.
It was
Okay. So okay, so thank you again, guys. That we spoke with Ebony today, and we talked about the basics of living life to the fullest. And she is crazy from day one till today, and I've talked to her numerous times. As usual, as always, there's a quote from the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully my guest and the people on Clubhouse will listen to this. Every day, it's important to ask and answer these questions. What's good in my life? And what needs to be done? And that's what she did, right? She really conquered all the hurdles that she's gone through, including her dad issues, including the death of her dad, including her health issues, including the dad leaving her, and how she struggled, and how she really became a woman that I salute her for that. So as usual, as always, what do I always say at the end of my episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and keep on commenting on all my episodes, including today, because you know what? With your comments, it makes me understand that every episode I work hard for. And the three things also, including this one, makes it successful, in my eyes, that is, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care, God bless, and I will see you next time on Back to Basics. Next week's episode on Back to
that
Basics
would look the same or are really boring. And I would say it depends from industry to industry. That's why, for example, on Novo Resume, we also have traditional and classic templates, while we also have creative and IT templates that are adapted to the new industries and the new types of skills. Yeah. So yeah, I would say,
Yep.
yeah.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would say that the resume, they evolved quite a lot in the last 10 years, especially like the format that needs to be sent. We still get this question a lot that, for example, why cannot they